This is Desiree Dubonnet. Just wanted to tell you, you see, we're not as young as we used to be. In fact, now we're more Jungian than ever. Carl Jung gave us a gift of understanding of the basic archetypal images inside humans. In 5th grade, we're taught that the body's made of atoms with electrons in the outer energy shells. And how many electrons? Vast quantity, almost unimaginable number of electrons just in one human body. And that the electron is not a fundamental particle. So we're able to prove that the universe is infinity to the power of infinity. And when we get inside these atoms, electrons never touch, they repel. No atom touches any other. And the electrons and the particles are so incredibly tiny, and E equals mc squared, so their energy as well. And the atom is such an incredible amount of empty space. It's energy, but it's empty space. If you remove the empty space from the atoms of all the people in the world, the entire human race would fit into a sugar cube. And what we do know that does touch is photons, light particles, because the light touches the electrons through emission and absorption. So thereby we are all of light. We are photonic energy beings. And because of this, we need to recognize the vast quantity. And we now proved through quantum entwinement that we are all connected. And that there's good and bad energy, hot and cold, and all this different type of diversity that comes out of the world. This incredible diversity of what we are as human beings. And as we interact with each other. And basically, there's different energies that form. Different type of archetypal energies. Ideas of who and what we are that have been made over the years. And some of these choices of who we become come to us from the nature of our own genetic and epigenetic structure. And some of these choices come from nurture, come from the forces of the environment around us that mold and shape us into who and what we are. But there's incredible diversity in the energy of the human being. And we're going to be studying about the archetypal energies and how it is wrong for people to try to impress their views on another. And that truly the greatest problem that could ever come out is extremism. We should never try to be extremist. We should try to embrace the diversity and the choice of the other people around us. Now we need to start talking about the born innate instincts that humans have. And basically there are some instincts that are very important, whether we care for others, things about right or wrong. These are very, very important. We need to understand the ideas and the extremities of these ideas. You see, human emotions and behavior will vary between extremes of belief and actions. We could basically see how humans can have polarities. And we could see these fluctuations of emotions and actions as if they were on a gauge. If we can imagine like a gauge, to the left, to the right, to extremes of one side or the other. You could have an extreme to one side, or there could be an extreme to the other side, completely different type of behavior. This is what we're going to be studying and trying to encourage people to be down the middle and to have little fluctuations and not to be extremists.
It's the ideas of purity. Certain people look for purity. And here they have the idea that they look for purity in everything to the left. Here we have the archetype of the Vestal Virgin, the complete innocent. The virgin who's untouched, everything pure, white, etc. On the other side, purity is not important, the archetype of the temptress, the exhibitionist who is seen as always showing off themselves, not caring at all about what is pure. These two extreme ideas on left and right, people will develop their position in between these. And that position can float up and down a little bit, but not an awful lot from where they're born. These are the ideas reflected with the archetypes from Carl Jung.
There are many different levels of purity in the Vestal Virgin, in the idea of purity. And sometimes it is a little seductive, and oftentimes it is very, very religious and spiritual.
I'm not seeking to be understood anymore. I want to understand. I'm not asking to be loved. I want to love. Where there is sadness, please, please help me find joy.
Others are more warrior-like and suspicious and have different ideas of levels of their purity versus the warrior instinct. And some are downright exhibitionists that just really feel no shame and can show their bodies in many different ways and also basically take risks. There is a wide range of different diversity in the human being, in his ability to show the purity or the disdain for purity, and the exhibitionist. As long as you're not hurting people, then there should be basically a sense of freedom. But then it could be said that this type of nudity might be hurting people by being provocative, drawing other people into it, making people want to be that way. We have to understand that all these different images are happening inside the mind in a Freudian, Jungian, archetypal fashion. These ideas that come into all of us. And these type of ideas have to be under some control. Our society must impose control on these ideas so that we don't lose our children and get too much into a Sodom and Gomorrah idea. So we have to recognize the power of these things and the forces that happen in the body.
Next is the idea of religion, a belief in the power, where some people see God at all and they worship and obey, the archetype of the priest. Or on the other side, the idea that there's no God at all, that there's no mental great power. This is the archetype of the mad scientist, who only believes in science, doesn't believe and only believes in statistics and doesn't believe in any of this religion type of stuff. We have these two ideas, but yet everybody has some idea of religion and everybody has some idea of atheism. Everything kind of joins in and combines as nobody is completely alone on this spectrum. All of these spectrums come to us through the ideas of the archetype. Next, in the value of life. All is money, all is power, material things, the archetype of the ruler. On the other side, where value is love, people sharing compassion, the archetype of the saint. Next, the power of laughter. Some people where everything is funny. Anything they do to get a laugh is okay. This extreme position, the trickster.
Where have I seen you? Oh, yes.
As we start to look at all the different archetypes, we see that humor runs a real strong connection through this. Because there is the trickster, who's actually trying to trick you. There's the clown, who's trying to be funny. There's the fool, who is kind of pathetic, but can offer different ideas of the world. So we have all different types of ideas in the world of humor and these archetypes. So here we have the clown trying to get our attention and to help relieve our stress. Because every time that there's a humor, there's always the butt of some joke. Somebody is being made fun of. That is what humor is all about. And as we start to recognize that when we're laughing at somebody else, we're actually laughing at ourselves. Because we can only perceive the world through our own eyes, through our own mind. So when we're laughing, we're actually laughing at ourselves, and this helps to relieve our tension. The greatest mark of mental stability is being able to laugh at oneself. And as we are doing this, we start to capture a release of our stress, a real compassion for other people. We have the idea that there, for the grace of God, go I. That could be me that I'm laughing at. And who do I really want to laugh at? Do I want to laugh at somebody? But actually, that could be me. So laughter helps to join us. And as we look at the different ideas of the archetypes and how people capture one idea or another, and they get into a role model, let's also pay attention to the little bit of the humor involved in the moment. That we need that little humor. We need the trickster to help us think about things. We need the clown to be able to draw attention away from the seriousness of the world. And we need the fool to make that critical commentary that we think isn't so serious, but actually can be. If we watch The Daily Show, if we watch the commentary, we'll see that as well. So as we start to look at our ideas of the archetypes, let's not forget about the ideas of humor and how that touches us, as we can now look at all the other different factors and ideas of the archetypal images that come to us from the collective unconscious.
Williams type character, the trickster. And on the other side, life is very serious, and it's too serious to be completely funny. The archetype of the ruler, the archetype of the person who doesn't have any sense of humor. We all laugh at things from time to time, but certain people laugh a lot more. And everybody has a little position up and down these spectrums. So all of these little issues that we see as we oscillate from one archetype to the other, everybody has a place on this spectrum, a little sliding scale, as it were, of who and what you are. And the outcome of expectations. Certain people are pessimists. The glass is empty. Not just half empty, empty. The archetype of the loser. And on the other side, we have the optimist, where the glass is full. Not just half full, but full. The archetype of the winner. Even though the person who has this idea of optimism might not always win, he still has that winner attitude in him. Whereas the pessimist always has that loser attitude. Because whatever he's done, he's lost. Because he's the loser. Everything is pessimistic. Whereas the winner, no matter what he does, he's won because he's the winner. And people will be born into this spectrum at a certain spot of all of these spectrums. And gradually nature and nurture can come along and change them as the environment, learning expectations, all these other things can come. And they might move a little bit. Sometimes they move a lot, but that doesn't happen an awful lot. Most people do not move too much. And sometimes we don't like who and what we are. We can change a little bit. The first step is accepting and understanding who we are. And then through growth, we can become more what we want to be. The problems of humanity come from intolerance of others and the extremism of each one of these categories. Any extremism is like permanent PMS. We must say no to extremism and to any extremism, because any of these little spectrums up and down can create problem if we are extremists. We must learn moderation in all things in order to be truly healthy. Benjamin Franklin told us this. And the base of intolerance is that everyone thinks others should be like them. Thus, they are not aware of the diversity. In order for us to start, we have to recognize that everybody wants the other people around them to be like them. The people who freeze don't want to tolerate the warrior, and the warrior doesn't want to tolerate the people who freeze. And yet we all need to recognize that in all of this world, we need all of these things. And these archetypes have given us ideas that come and touch us and shape our minds. These archetypes have extended throughout all the cultures of all the world. We must learn to tolerate, and tolerance of intolerance is cowardice.